Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I want to talk about two quick things today. One of them is a rather positive development with Indonesia and Tesla, although I don't know for a fact that Indonesia is going to get what they are expecting out of this, but it's a really cool proposal. And clearly Elon Musk and Tesla have been interested in Indonesia because they've actually discussed things with them previously. There have been some public, handshake kind of deals and stuff like that. So anyway, we'll have to see where this goes. This is obviously the first page that I'm on right now. The second one is not such a lovely thing, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, so Tesla gets proposal from Indonesia for EV plant with an annual production capacity of 500,000 vehicles. That's pretty cool. So I think everyone's expectations for Indonesia when they were talking with Tesla was that they might do something like a battery mining / manufacturing plant area, something along those lines. Not that they would actually do an automobile factory. But anyway, it looks like Indonesia is pushing hard for this. They want to, they're wooing Tesla with a proposal for an EV factory with an annual production capacity of 500,000 vehicles. And then there's a bunch of details about that. And they said that they will supply energy for this factory from renewable sources to companies like Tesla that are conscious of their carbon footprint. Sustainable energy, one of the main focuses of the G20 summit that's going to be in Indonesia in November of this year. So interesting timing with all this. One could say that they're just playing a politics game and trying to show off how environmentally friendly they are. But it is interesting because if we move down here, it says that they have signed a letter, a non-disclosure agreement with Tesla, so that it seems like there are negotiations in place, because if Tesla wasn't that interested, they more than likely would not have signed a non-disclosure agreement. That's unlikely that they would have done that. So anyway, so they're saying that they can use green energy, they can create this plant. There are a lot of resources in Indonesia for, mining, etc., to get the raw materials that are necessary. The big sort of negative in my mind for Indonesia is number one, the car market is very, very small in Indonesia itself, which means that they're going to require shipping most of these vehicles elsewhere to wherever, to Australia, to the Far East, wherever kind of things. I guess they could ship it to South America as well. That's a pretty long shipment, but anyway, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud about places that they could go with this, but there are places that they could ship these vehicles, but they're going to have to ship most of them, which is not the most environmentally or logistically friendly thing in the world to do. So I don't know that Tesla will take up Indonesia on this, but it's a really interesting proposal and good for them for trying. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing that even if Tesla doesn't go through with this, some other company might take them up on that. So it'll be really interesting to see how this goes. And maybe Tesla will take them up on it. It's a very interesting development. So anyway, from that, I want to move to this. So this is from Insider magazine. Sorry, it's a cell phone grab because that's where I was able to get it. But I want to talk about poor journalism. And it's poor journalism, I don't think from any kind of nasty intent or anything like that. I think it's just the way that people have gotten to be very, very lazy and dependent on PR departments to do the journalism for them. So what I'm saying is, if you were going to do an article on let's say Ford and their new F-150 Lightning, Ford would give you a whole bunch of narrative about that. They would give you press releases. They would give you information decks. They would give you a lot of stuff so that you would then you would become a journalist and write an article that basically just reiterated their narrative. So they would have control of the narrative and everyone is happy. Tesla famously does not have a PR department. And so what happens, I think, is that journalists are kind of lazy these days. Again, I don't think that there's ill intent in this article. I think it's just laziness. And so what happens is a lot of facts are wrong and it makes things sound a lot worse and a lot different than they actually are. So I kind of want to walk through this and talk about the reality versus what's actually talked about in this article. Okay, so the title of this is Tesla's stock split plan aims to help Elon Musk attract and retain excellent talent, filing shows. So that is, pretty true. we can agree to that because that's exactly what he said about that. So Tesla's plan for a 3-for-1 stock split aims to help the electric car maker attract and retain more top talent, filings show, even as Elon Musk mulls making layoffs. So yeah, those two things are associated in time, but they really don't have an awful lot to do to each other. One thing that's very important to note is that Tesla's planned stock split was announced months ago, way before this announcement of these intended layoffs. So the problem is, again, this is that lazy journalism, that there's this idea that these two things are connected, but the stock split was announced, again, not the 3-for-1, but the fact that Tesla's board of directors had approved a stock split was a long time ago. I don't remember exactly, over a month ago, I think 6 weeks ago, somewhere in that order. So it was a long time ago that they announced that they had approved the stock split and they were going to put it up to the vote, long before Elon Musk came in and said, everybody get back to work or else, and we're going to cut a bunch of people in management and things like that. So again, just you want to be precise when you're being a journalist, and I think that's a lack of precision right here. All right, so the proposal made in Tesla's filing with the SEC would triple the number of shares in the company from 2 to 6 billion. I don't think those numbers are correct. I actually believe the number is just a little over 1 billion, and it will be a little over 3 billion. So I don't know where this person, sorry, I should get his name, Ryan Hogg, sorry. I don't know exactly where he came up with this number because to my understanding, it's something like 1.036 billion shares. 2 billion shares is a big misestimation. So anyway, I could be wrong about that, but I think that is incorrect about this. So that is not correct. But anyway, the 3-to-1 split is correct. So anyway, while the move would also lower the price of individual shares and allow more retail investors to buy its stock, Tesla said the move also had the interest of employees in mind. Our success depends on attracting and retaining excellent talent, not only through providing a respectful, safe, inclusive, and equitable workplace, wow, that sounds like corporate speak, but also through offering outstanding benefits and highly competitive compensation packages, the filing stated. Tesla gives its employees options to buy equity in the company. It said since its 5-for-1 stock split in August of 2020, the company's share price has grown by 43%, which we all know if we've been invested in that. So basically, and here we go. Tesla said, while this value appreciation has led to our employees benefiting enormously through the years, we want to make sure all employees, no matter when they join, have access to the same advantages. We believe the stock split would help reset the market price of our common stock so that our employees will have more flexibility in managing their equity, all of which, in our view, may help maximize stockholder value. So, and then it goes on to talk specifically about numbers. So shares in Tesla closed on Friday at 696. They're substantially lower than that today as far as the last time I looked, meaning the split would reduce them to around $232 a piece, maybe $200 a piece right now. It's just crazy what's going on with Tesla stock, but that's a topic for a whole other video. So anyway, the basic idea is if you're an employee and let's say you're saving up to purchase their stock, and the way it works is I think every quarter Tesla takes the lowest stock price. So actually right now is great for employees and for those of us interested in buying stock. But what they do is they take the lowest price and then they give them, I think it's either 10 or 15% off of that. So if during the quarter there's a big dip, right? So it's like normally $800, but then it drops down to like $700 for just a day and then goes back up during the quarter, that employee then is able to purchase it at $700 less the 10 or 15% discount as well. So that's a pretty good deal. So they can just wait for the quarter to run out, pick the lowest day, get a discount off of that, and it's really good. But still, if you're saving up, let's say you'd saved up, $696 here, let's say you'd saved up $500 this quarter to purchase some stock, like one share, just to make it simple. But you couldn't do that at this point because the lowest price was $696, and even with the discount, you wouldn't be able to get it for $500. So you'd have to wait a whole other quarter to buy another share of the stock, right? But if it's a third of the price, then you could buy a couple of shares at that new price. So that helps out employees. Obviously, it helps out retail investors who oftentimes don't have like $1,000 or some large amount of money, but wish to purchase shares. And so you can purchase complete shares, which actually give you voting rights and a bunch of other stuff over fractional shares that are very, very helpful. So anyway, all of that stuff is really beneficial for retail investors and for employees. It really doesn't matter for, the big markets. If you've got millions of dollars, who cares, right? the cost of the stock is kind of inconsequential at that point. All right. So anyway, investors are going to be asked to approve the stock split at Tesla's annual meeting on August 4th. The move comes as Musk said he was considering laying off 10% of Tesla's employees due to his super bad feeling about the economy before quickly backtracking by tweeting that overall headcount would increase. This is the problem paragraph here. All of these things are basically true, but they don't have causal relationships with each other. So the super bad feeling about the economy had nothing to do with him laying off the 10%. That actually was a different event that happened around the same time. And sure, he may have some worries about paying extra people when there's a downturn, but Tesla is massively profitable. His big push for this, and again, he's not really backtracking in this tweet that overall headcount would increase. What he's saying is the people actually building the vehicles will have an increase in employment while there'll be a reduction in management. So what you're getting is people who are managing, who are not actively building the cars, the people who are on salaries. There will be a cut of those sort of bottom 10% performance of those people, but then the hourly employees, the people who actually build the cars, will be increased so that there's going to be kind of a balance with that whole thing. So all of this has less to do with his super bad feeling about the economy, because Tesla is going to be fine almost no matter what. I mean, they have such a gigantic backlog of interest. And by the way, I think Australia, they just put the Model Y on sale in Australia, and it's already like February of 2023 if you want to buy one now. So it's absolutely crazy what kind of lead times we're talking about all over the world. But anyway, the overall headcount, the number of people who are on hourly payment who actually build the vehicles is actually going to go up some. There's going to be a reduction in management. Elon really, really likes most of his team to be people who build things, engineers, people who are, building the products that he's working on. So anyway, all of these things are true, but they're not actually connected to each other. And that's what is lazy journalism in my mind. Again, I don't think there's ill intent here. I think it's just laziness. And then we get to this paragraph that says the electric car maker is fending off competition for its top talent from the likes of Amazon, which is trying to recruit workers unhappy with Musk's demand that they return to the office. That demand has been described to Insider as antiquated. So I talked about this before, and I'll put a link to this at the end of this video, but basically Tesla is not a software company. They're a hardware company. A software company can have people sit at home and do their work at home. That is a possibility. But when you're building vehicles, and the way that Tesla builds vehicles is that software engineers actually are expected to go and be on the line and be looking at how these cars are being built so that they can build better software for these cars. So even somebody who's really working in software primarily is expected to be there and look at how this stuff is working. Also, the way that Tesla's agile operations work, they expect people to kind of like scrum. They mob a problem. So if there's a problem that comes up, there's a bunch of people that are expected to be there on site working on the problem. So antiquated or not, this is Tesla's way of doing things, and you could argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's the way they do it. And so it's kind of a specious argument to talk about the fact that this is antiquated. It is the way that Tesla does things. It's very funny that Tesla's being called antiquated because they're at the forefront of so much stuff. Anyway, I'm sure companies like Amazon are very, very happy to hire out some of the people that Tesla's getting rid of. But you got to remember, the people that Tesla's looking to get rid of are management people who are underperforming and people who don't want to come into work. So those are generally not the most motivated or productive employees that you have anyway. So Tesla's probably on the line on, thinking like good riddance. If you want to take those people, that's fantastic news. You can just go ahead and take them. And then we have a thing about, the shares have sunk 42%, partly because investors have been spooked by Musk's $44 billion bid for Twitter, as well as sexual misconduct allegations against him revealed by Insider. And this last paragraph is this is pretty egregious right here. This has nothing to do with the article at all. It's just basically throwing out salacious details, right? This is where we go from lazy to kind of ill intent. Like, his $44 billion bid for Twitter has nothing to do with Tesla, maybe with its stock prices, but it really doesn't have to do with Tesla's hiring practices or anything like that. And then the sexual misconduct allegations are a little bit ridiculous. They've already been poo-pooed by a lot of people. I'm not going to waste a lot of time going through all the details of that, but check it out if you're interested. There really aren't that many, relative to the size of the company, there really aren't that many sexual misconduct allegations made against Elon Musk or against the company itself relative to the size of the company. So again, I'm not saying that any sexual misconduct should be tolerated whatsoever, but these are kind of specious allegations that are in there. But throwing this out in the last paragraph, I teach writing, and I always call this opening up a can of worms in the conclusion, right? So people will be doing something, they'll be like, in conclusion, there's this. And then you say something that's like the beginning of a whole other article or paper or something. And that's essentially what happens here in the last paragraph. This is just, it's just it has nothing to do with the article whatsoever, but it's just kind of salacious details, and it's going to make people go like, ooh, the Twitter bid and the sexual misconduct allegations. Wow, that's amazing stuff. And they'll be all interested in it, and it will probably do a lot of good for the search engine organization, SEO. So, it's that kind of stuff they're throwing this out for, but that's really not good journalism at all. So anyway, all of this is just to say that while most of the facts, actually, I think all of the facts are true, the way that they're put together and made into a causal connection, rather than just happening at the same time in time, temporally, by putting them all together and making them sound like they all are sort of consequences of each other, it makes things sound really bad at Tesla when they're really, really not. So I think it's worth picking apart articles like this because they're lazy journalism to the point of adding salacious details at the end, which I don't think is just lazy, but is, I think it's good for getting eyeballs on the article and getting clicks, but it's really bad journalism. So, what are you going to say about that? All right. Anyway, the positive news is all about Indonesia. I think that's really cool, whether Tesla takes them up on this or not. I think it's really great that Indonesia is trying to play with the big players here and get Tesla to come on board with them. I think that's fantastic news. And this article itself, make of it what you will. I just wanted to talk about it and break it down and talk about the facts versus what's being implicated here. So anyway, I hope that is useful. A big thank you as always to my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. By the way, I did an episode with Ellie in Space. We just did a live stream about the SpaceX announcement from the FAA, which is really, really good news for SpaceX. So check out her channel if you haven't done that yet. And, we talk about a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, if you're interested in that stuff, definitely check that out. And in the meantime, everybody have a lovely day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.